How could such a disastrous decline be ignored for so long? Politics? Money? I really have to wonder why the hell anyone would want to live here. I came here to get answers, to meet the people who are desperately trying to save the sea, and to find out if the Salton Sea actually has any kind of future.
You're listening to KRHQ Radio, and it is a beautiful day on the Salton Sea.
The Salton Sea exploded in popularity, and from around 1948 until 1967, this was an extraordinarily popular place for people to go, whether they were rich or poor, whether they were single or had family members.
As I drive around the sea, I'm going to stop and talk to local folks and find out what it's really like to live in this unusual area.
I'm on the western shore of the Salton Sea in the town of Desert Shores, and I came across Chris Saltaire. Thank you very much for talking with us this morning. How did you decide on this place, of all places, to end up retiring?
Desert Shores and North Shore, which is the opposite side of the sea, are probably the least expensive, or are the least expensive areas in the state of California.
Yes.
So when you're a senior on Social Security, it looks good.
You made the decision to come here, but you like it here.
It's actually quite nice here. This area was very, very popular in the 50s and 60s.
I'm still here at Desert Shores, California. I came across Beth Stevens, who used to be here as a water skier back in the day.
Families could come and the kids would go swimming, have a hamburger, hot dog, and spend the day out here in the sun. Go in the water swimming and you would float. That was the most fun thing about it.
Now, we have talked with some people further up the beach. In fact, I think it's that area right over there that regularly go into the water still now, and splash around. So a lot of people around the sea are still splashing around in the shallows.
I never see anybody in there, and I go to take specimens, as I told you, for my own amusement. I have a microscope, and it's hard to get close to the sea without sinking into the muck. So I can't imagine swimming in it. I don't know how you'd get in there, except you just do belly flop, I guess.
The Salton Sea was accidentally created in 1905 when the Colorado River overflowed some canals into a dry lake bed 227 feet below sea level, the Salton Sink. It took 2 years to close the gap, and a 500 square mile lake was a result of the inflows. In the 1970s, back-to-back storms of the century caused massive flooding and the destruction of businesses and settlements all along the sea. Property values plummeted, and people started moving away from the area. Communities were abandoned and never recovered economically from these twin natural disasters. It's an absolutely beautiful winter morning and a panoramic view to die for. For people from Los Angeles and San Diego, this must have been a pretty nice place to come and spend the weekend. It's hard to imagine the joy and excitement for the fun times that people must have had when I'm in these ruined buildings and sparse communities around the sea.
I can only imagine that when the Salton Sea is rejuvenated, when they get the will to fix it and they realize the importance of this sea to entire region, and in fact to the United States, that somebody is going to stand on this property, stand on this patio in front of a derelict, abandoned, dry, graffiti-lined pool, and they're just going to say, I'm going to make something of this. The Salton Sea is a fantastic area for families and families with kids in particular. On a day like this, with a beautiful breeze coming off the Salton Sea, reminds me of the old days when I used to skip rocks at the beach in Rhode Island.
I was very fortunate to have met Salton Sea activist Linda Beale. She's one of the most committed and connected activists I've ever met, and is an absolute font of knowledge about the history and preservation of the Salton Sea. Certainly is a beautiful winter day, around 75 degrees, the sun's out. This looks like it'd be a wonderful place for families to spend the weekend.
It is, and I hope they restore the other boat launches around the sea where people can launch again and enjoy the sea. And during the late 70s, we had some monsoons come in, and it did flood a lot of the resorts all the way around the sea.
As I've driven the shoreline in the past few days, about all that's left is devastation from the 60s and 70s, but I would certainly think somebody could make an economic case for rejuvenating the sea and then having all kinds of residential and economic activity start to line this 160 miles of inland sea. It's hard to believe this is a 350 square mile lake that's actually in danger of turning into just a wasteland.
There's so many young people and universities that are interested in saving the sea and saving the birds, saving the wildlife. So I have great hope. This is a worthwhile place to save. It's a magical place, a special place.
We're on our way now to Salvation Mountain in Niland, California. It's a cacophony of color out in the Sonoran Desert that was originally thought of and developed by a guy named Leonard Knight. And it was basically an ode to the Serenity Prayer. And then it turned into an edifice built of adobe and straw sticks and old tires that has become a mecca for people wanting to come and see Love Mountain out here in the desert. We're here at Salvation Mountain, and I was lucky to come across Ron here, who's one of the groundskeepers, and he's a greeter. And we came back here toward the back of this of the display that probably most people can't see coming down the road, Ron, and see that there is a lot of deterioration in the original structure. And you're involved in trying to get the this facility rehabilitated, aren't you?
That's correct. There's myself and other volunteers.
Mm-hmm. What is this overall? What is this made of?
It's made of adobe clay and paint, hay bales. None of these trees are real. These are all just fake trees that Leonard built. People will save up, a lot of Asian countries, they'll save up their money for years to come to Salvation Mountain. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, that's why, one of the reasons why we guard this place. We want it to be beautiful because people dream about it, they love it, they come here. Mm-hmm. That's a goal in itself, saving up and coming from somewhere so far.
We're big fans of folk art. I mean, you can't get any bigger than this, right?
Yeah.
In terms of folk art. And we're reading about Leonard Knight and his story. And while we may not be religious, I think the message that love is universal is beautiful, and that's what brought us here.
can see here at the Salvation Mountain, there's a number of groups of tourists, all of which seem to be addicted to selfie sticks. We're heading up to the mountain right now.
When Leonard passed away in 2014, a foundation was created. The foundation is a tax-free organization that was created to maintain and sustain Salvation Mountain for future generations. Nice people, a great universal message of love, and a chaos of color in the desert. I can't think of a better way to end my day.
Great night's sleep, a great breakfast. It's a fantastic day here. Let's go down and see what it's like in Slab City today. I'm in East Jesus, California. If you've never heard of that, it's actually a conclave within the Camp Dunlap area, now currently called Slab City. It's just a couple miles from Salvation Mountain. And I happened to drive in, and I came to East Jesus to see these beautiful mobiles and artwork that were made out of anything that the folks here can find in the desert. And speaking about anything, the people in the desert, it's I came across Mike here. What is the idea, Mike, behind this artwork?
Well, I have no idea. All I can tell you is that we try to attract good people and don't tell them what to do. You have complete freedom here. You have the freedom to act any way you want to. If your behavior annoys me, I have the right to beat the living shit out of you.
Okay.
It's one of them deals.
Behavioral modification, I guess you could say.
Here we go, yes.
What are your responsibilities in Slab City?
I have none. Okay, all right, it's not true. My primary responsibility is empty the compost buckets.
Okay.
I am the shit hauler for East Jesus here. As you know, as a former counselor, I still talk to people. I am one of the best counselors they can come across because I have no memory. Whatever they tell me, I'll forget it in 5 minutes. I've forgotten your name already.
I'm still here in East Jesus, California, and I happen to come across a young lady, and it's nice to come across something young here in this graveyard of busted, broken parts and misfit toys.
When you're around organic things, it just brings a peace, I think, that you're not going to find in like the cities as much as when you're just around. For me, it's God's creation, you know, and people that have that same like-mindedness is just, it kind of draws people together, and obviously that's kind of what's going on in this place.
I think it's a pretty impressive show of folk art here.
Very much so. That's what I said, because when you drive around, you see piles of like garbage, but you come here and it's like the trash is suddenly art, and it just goes to show that it doesn't have to all be trash. It can be made into art, and if you take your time, you can be here for hours looking around, you know.
We're on our way now to see Bruce Wilcox, and he's going to tell us all about how he's helping to coordinate efforts to save the Salton Sea. This is Bill Cummings from the Red Hill Marina at the southern end of the Salton Sea, and I'm very happy this morning to have with me Bruce Wilcox, who in October 2015 was appointed by California Governor Jerry Brown to be the Salton Sea Czar. I think your official title is Assistant Secretary for Salton Sea Policy for the California Natural Resources Agency. Am I close?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Try fitting that on a business card.
Oh, do you get paid by the letter?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I guess that would make you the czar. Would be a lot cheaper form for you to get paid for.
And I think that's why they called it that.
Yeah.
I'm one of a lot of people at the state and the other local agencies that have been working on the Salton Sea for a while.
Well, we've got a 110-year-old problem from the time this sea started you've been in the job now for about 16 months, and how far have we come in those 16 months?
Well, we're not caught up yet, but I think we're making progress, and the progress we're making is because of all of the stakeholders that are around the Salton Sea that have contributed to this.
How long is it going to take to fix the Salton Sea?
Well, it kind of depends on your definition of fixed. We're looking at a management program that's going to make a smaller but sustainable Salton Sea over the years. We think that we can probably have construction moving in quite a few areas sometime in late 2018. The Phase 1 plan is a 10-year program. So we have 10 years through 2028 as we just follow the sea as it recedes.
I see a number of steam stacks rising. How does that figure into the ecology around the Salton Sea?
We think that we're going to develop the habitat and the dust suppression around those plants.
The Salton Sea is located along the notorious and volatile San Andreas Fault. In fact, they're standing on a 4-mile wide, 20-mile long, 1.5 deep section of magma that's used to power about 11 geothermal plants around this area just south of the Salton Sea. That heat is converted to power. The power is then transferred to San Diego. Much as the water that was in the Salton Sea is now going to be transferred to San Diego. San Diego now will benefit from the Salton Sea and the shore and from below the earth. Over 450 species of birds, the Salton Sea is critical for feeding and rest during their migrations north and south. So this is basically the southern end of the Pacific Flyway. I've heard it referred to as that. What exactly is the Pacific Flyway?
So the Pacific Flyway is an administrative name for the western half of the United States that birds tend to find regular paths as they migrate from the northern areas. They are cold in the winter and make their way south where it's warmer. A lot of them end up right here for the winter, or at least here on part of their migration on their way south.
You've got a project in Red Hill here where you're going to try to create some special lands to be able to create bird sanctuaries. Can you give me a little bit more about that?
That's essentially a template for Salton Sea restoration. There's been a lot of studies on Salton Sea restoration, how to go about it, and this involves blending water from the Salton Sea that's really salty and blending it with agricultural drainage water, which is essentially fresh water, and to reduce the salinity and create a more manageable water body in what's essentially a large duck pond. It's going to be about 500 acres in size. Hopefully give visitors a better idea of just really how productive the Salton Sea can be.
The counties around the Salton Sea are the most productive vegetable production areas in the entire United States, including crops of sweet corn, cauliflower, broccoli, and dates, in particular medjool dates, like this tree I'm standing next to. The ingredient, the magic ingredient that makes them all here, water. I'm talking with Juan Delara. He's a big shooter with Federated Insurance and also the president of the Salton Sea Action Committee. And in particular, we're interested in hearing about Travertine Point.
The thing with Travertine Point is that we figured out that this project means a lot to the restoration efforts of the Salton Sea, because it could bring a lot of investment, a lot of wealth, and the generation of revenue to pay for the restoration efforts will be incorporated into the development of this new town.
I did see the plot plan for the new town, and it's fascinating. You've got retail, you've got office, you've got schools, it's an incredible array of commercial services and business services and government services even. Isn't Travertine Point's success largely going to depend on some intervention by someone with that plan to restore?
We're going to depend on the efforts of the federal, state, and local governments to take action to restore the sea. But at the same time, those governments have to also appreciate and depend on the action and the willingness of the stakeholders to invest in their lands and in projects like Travertine Point, so that they can generate the dollars. Because without the local investment, without the stakeholders taking a part in that, it just will not happen. But you know, for as long as I've lived here, you know, that sea, that body of water has had a special place in my life and in my heart, as well as a lot of us that grew up and lived here.
Now, are you going to walk the walk when the Travertine Point is built and buy a place for yourself within the...
I've already had my lot picked. I'm ready to go.
You haven't shown me the map. You haven't shown me. You're a salesman like nobody I've ever seen. You didn't show me a map.
I'll make sure that you stay. I'll keep you close to me, and you'll be my neighbor in the future.
Okay, good. So I presume that Travertine Point is going to be the last place you're going to want to live?
Probably will. Okay. It probably will.
Well, I look forward to being your neighbor. Thank you very much, and thanks for all your time here, Juan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Right now, I'm at the southwest corner of the Salton Sea on a bluff overlooking what used to be Naval Air Station Salton Sea. Back in 1942, the Naval Air Station was established as a place for Catalina flying boats to practice landings and subsequently to how to use torpedoes and how to effect rescues at sea. Initially, though, in 1940, way up at the northern end of the sea, where the North Shore Yacht Club is located right now, the PBUIs used to land, and locals would come out in their boats and ferry them to shore at night. They'd stay in local lodges. In the morning, they would get in the boats and head back out to their PBUIs and take off.
The most popular local hangout on the west shore of the Salton Sea is Johnson's Landing. It serves as a bar, restaurant, and community center for the 3,700 residents of Salton City, California.
I'm here with Mitch Mansfield, who's a local guy. And Mitch, I see the cafe, I don't see the landing. What's up with that?
There is no more landing. The landing is gone. There are no more boat ramps. The sea has moved out.
Is that about 150 yards or so?
Oh, it'd be probably 300 yards.
300 yards. Wow. The land used to come right up here to these Jersey barriers?
Right. Water used to come right up here to the walls.
What in particular is it about the retreating sea that's going to make it damaging to the health and welfare of the people in the communities around the sea?
Well, you have all the dust particles. They're very minute. They're a lot finer than sand. They will literally choke you down. I mean, your lungs can fill up with it here.
I understand the incidence of asthma in young kids in this area is pretty high.
I understand higher than anywhere in the United States.
It sounds like Tierra del Sol and your cafe here are counter to the trend of people leaving the area.
Well, we're trying to get people to come back in. I mean, it's a great place to be. A lot of snowbirds, not many people in the summer, quite a bit of population in the winter. It's a great time. It's a great place to come retire.
You come and you see these abandoned places, and in a way it's kind of haunting, and yet it's got a beauty in it.
Despite the stark panoramas of damaged and abandoned homes and businesses, hopes and dreams are still very much alive in communities around the Salton Sea.
Love my house, love the sea, love my neighbors. These are people I've met here in town, you know, and we all, it's a small community. There's about 4,000 of us here in Salton City, and when you come out, you know everybody. It's literally cheers. When you go out, everybody knows your name.
So this is a very common bond we all have with each other. Mm-hmm. We all respect each other's privacy, but we also appreciate and love each other for having the same dream that we have.
So your idyllic, kind of quiet existence is at risk if the sea is transformed, and yet if the sea is not transformed, then it makes it at times a difficult place to live.
Because it's so peaceful and quiet here, I don't want to see a whole lot of growth here, but we do need it. And if saving the sea causes that, I would love for the sea to be restored back to the way it should be.
Exactly.
And all the waterfowl will go away. People will, I mean, it'll impact so many people if the sea dries up.
A lot of people ask us, why do you live down here? And sometimes I don't want to tell them, because it's our nice little secret. However, when they come here, they say, no wonder you live here. It is peaceful. It is so very peaceful down here. And I just hope, I hope that all the right people will see that and be able to help save the sea.
The sun is setting on my day, and it's almost the end of my visit to the Salton Sea and a lot of communities around the Salton Sea. In spite of everything that's negative about the area, occasional fish kills, temperatures, smells, and that type of thing, I found an unbelievable optimism and a spirit of hope in the people and communities all around the Salton Sea. Is this the last place I want to live? I can tell you it's not. But I've met many, many people over the course of my visit who think that this is the most wonderful place on earth to live, who are happy with the way things are. They're optimistic that things are going to get better with the sea, and something is going to happen, someone is going to intercede to make the sea healthy again. But in any event, they love it here, they want to stay here, and this could well be the last place they want to live.